In this video, we're basically going to cover 3 things, and that's going to be the 4 types of music royalties, the 2 types of copyrights, and who collects royalties. A couple key terms to keep in mind is songwriter and performer. Now, they can be the same person, they can be different people, but they're both entitled to different things. Also keep in mind that I'm not a lawyer, and if at any point you feel like you are struggling with any of this stuff and you feel that you need a lawyer, this video does not substitute an attorney. So just talk to an attorney for all music copyright related stuff. Yeah, let's go. Part 1, royalties. There are 4 kinds of music royalties, and those are public performance royalties, mechanical royalties, synchronization royalties, and print music royalties. Public performance royalties. Think of these as being paid for any live performance of your music. If your music is played in the real world anywhere, you should be getting a royalty. There are companies called PROs, or performing rights organizations. Basically what they do is they charge a fee to all kinds of companies. You've got hotels, radio stations, TV stations, music venues, clubs, bars, restaurants, stores. All of these companies pay a fee to the performing rights organization in your country, and then they take that money that they collect and they distribute it to all of the people that have their work signed up with that PRO. Whenever you make a song and record it and go to release it in the world, you should align yourself with a performing rights organization, because that way you get royalties and they'll take care of this all for you. For example, in Canada, I'm signed up with SOCAN. That's the only PRO that there is, but in the United States, there's actually 3. So you've got ASCAP, BMI, and CZAC. And in the UK, there's 2, PRS and PPL. Most countries have their own. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's a couple. You could pretty much just do an internet search and figure out which one you need to align with. The cool thing about working with SOCAN is they have an affiliate with 2 of the PROs in the States. And you basically just get to choose which one you want to represent you. I chose ASCAP because it's got a funny name, and Avril Lavigne is on their roster. So I was like, yeah, that seems like the right choice for me. Pretty much if your music is performed in a public space, whether it's you singing it, whether it's someone else singing it, if it's the recorded version or a band playing it live, you deserve to be getting paid a royalty for that performance. Cool. Mechanical royalties or reproduction rights. Think of these as being paid for physical merch. So if you're signed to a label, technically, whenever they press your music to a physical medium, whether that's a CD or a vinyl, they should be paying you a royalty whenever they sell your music. This is a common practice where every member of the band that is a performer gets a royalty, and then everyone in the band that's a songwriter also gets a separate royalty, because their copyrighted material has been reproduced by the label and then sold. Now, if you're like me, which I'm assuming because you're watching this, you probably are, you are just like an independent musician who's doing this on your own, the way I've been doing it for years. No one is taking royalties and distributing them out to you in a percentage and getting back advances and stuff like that. You and your band, I'm assuming, have an agreement of some sort, and if you don't have an agreement, you should have an agreement. When you print physical merch and sell it, that mechanical royalty that a label would be paying out to a bigger artist is just you guys getting paid back for the money you fronted for your physical product. I have an agreement with my band. We take the money from selling music and just invest it back in the band. Now, you could do it differently. You could take a percentage of that and keep it for yourselves. Honestly, you can do whatever you want. But as an independent artist, the mechanical royalty is kind of your responsibility. Now, if you're using a third-party aggregate to get your music on streaming services like CD Baby or DistroKid, when they give you your payout, that's a mechanical royalty. So then it's your responsibility to distribute it between your band members. If you're in Canada, in 2018, SOCAN acquired a company called SODRAC. SODRAC is a mechanical rights organization. So technically SOCAN also collects external mechanical right royalties for you. It's really just kind of don't have to worry about it if you're Canadian. But if you're in the US, you want to sign up to a company like the Harry Fox Agency, Synchronization royalties or sync royalties. Think of these as being paid whenever your music is synced to picture. Whenever your copyrighted material, and once you've created something in a physical, tangible form, technically it's copyrighted as yours. When it's taken and then paired to a visual medium, you would get a sync royalty. There are 2 kinds of licenses that come with sync royalties. You have a sync license, which allows copyrighted music to be synced to TV, movies, video games, ads, like whatever, and a master use license, which is basically an agreement between whoever wants to use it and whoever owns the master license to the recorded piece of music for them to use it for pairing it with the visual medium that they want to pair it with. Doesn't matter if it's the full song or just a snippet, there needs to be both of those licenses in place in order for any copyrighted music to be synced with visual media. An example of this would be if you wanted to use a Blink-182 song in your skateboarding vlog on YouTube, legally, you need to get a sync license and a master use license, which you would have to pay for to use the song without getting a copyright flag. And print music royalties. Think of these as being paid whenever your music is printed on paper. So these royalties are effectively generated whenever a sheet music version of your music is created. You're technically supposed to be paid per copy that's made. This is really uncommon nowadays. This is more for classical styles of music, and I guess kind of now with a lot of these guitar-driven bands that have a lot of like tab books and stuff like that, this is maybe something that would be more common where you'd see the songwriter getting paid print royalties every time a tab book is made, or maybe a fake book for musicals and operas. But this is more uncommon now with most popular styles of music. But it is a type of royalty that you could be making money off of if someone's printing your music on sheet paper. So there you go. Part 2, types of copyright. Okay, there are 2 types of copyright, but before I say anything, I want to reiterate that I am not a lawyer at all. I've done a lot of research, but copyright is very complicated. So if you have any actual concerns or questions about copyright, contact an attorney. This does not substitute as legal advice in any way. So yeah. The 2 types of music copyright are master rights and publishing rights. Master rights or sound recording. Literally the audio recording. A master recording is an original song that is created and put down into a physical format for the express purpose of reproducing it and distributing it. So recording a song in a studio and then making CDs or putting it on Spotify. That is a master recording. The master rights belong to, usually, whoever paid for the recording session. So if you're signed to a label and they paid for the studio time, they own the master rights. If you're an independent band who's scramped and saved and got together enough money to record, then probably everyone in the band is a part owner of the master rights. And if your Uncle Jack happened to front the recording costs for you to get your first EP done, he owns the master rights to your music, so he can kind of do with it whatever he wants.
What you want to do is get your Uncle Jack off the master rights.
Ugh, that's so inappropriate. Publishing rights or composition rights. Literally, lyrics and melody. Publishing rights belong to whoever wrote the song. That's it. This refers to lyrics, melody, notes, progressions, the whole, putting it all together and making a work, a musical work. That's what it is. It's a block. It's a block. It's a block that looks like that. They all look like that. If you are not signed to a publishing company and you are the songwriter, you own 100% of the publishing rights. They are yours. It would be split up between all the songwriters. So if there's multiple songwriters per song, then it's split between all of you. But you own them. They're yours to do with what you will. And if you are signed to a publishing company, typically it's a 50-50 split in the publishing rights. It's not too bad. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Part 3, who collects royalties? Lots of people, basically. Yeah. Songwriters. Songwriters are the people who write the songs. They take lyrics and melody and they marry them together into a cohesive skeleton. Then it's got like emotion and meaning to it. And yeah, this could be 1, 2, 5, 25 people. It could be any amount of people. From 1 to infinite number of people could be the songwriter, depending on what the songwriting agreement you put in place was when you first started writing the song. You should have a songwriting agreement before you start writing songs with anybody. It's just, Currently, the three songwriters with the most #1 hits according to Billboard Top 100 is Paul McCartney with 32, John Lennon with 26, and Max Martin with 22, which will be important in a minute. Performance artist. Performance artists perform original works, but didn't necessarily write original works. Basically, if you're hired to go into a studio and sing on someone else's track, you're a performance artist, and so you're entitled to public performance royalties and mechanical royalties, but you're not entitled to any of the publishing rights. An example would be that John Lennon and Paul McCartney were both songwriters and performers in the Beatles, so they're entitled to all of the royalties that come with wearing both of those hats, whereas Max Martin just writes songs for other artists like Taylor Swift or Katy Perry or the Backstreet Boys, so he's not entitled to any of the performance royalties, but all of the songwriting royalties. I told you it would be important. Publishers. A publishing company just makes sure that a copyright holder is paid for the use of their music. Basically, they'll take songs in their repertoire and they'll pitch them to companies that they work with and then collect money whenever a copy is made of that song. Basically, they make sure that songwriters are paid whenever their music is used for anything, really. The fees are usually then split between the publisher and the songwriter. As I said before, it's typically a 50-50 split, but it would all depend on the contract that you sign with the publishing company. There are lots of publishing companies, so do some research. Find one that has artists that you like and see if you can pitch some music to them. Couldn't hurt. Record labels. Record labels are responsible for the marketing and distribution of an artist's recorded music. Generally, they'll have a contract in place with an artist that allows them to exploit their recording for monetary purposes over a period of time, which is basically like a recording contract. They also usually have the master rights for all of the artists on their roster, but they do not hold any publishing rights. Labels generate royalty income from mechanical royalties and performance royalties, which they'll then distribute a percentage of that to their artists based on the contract that they have in place with the artist. That's different for every single artist on every single label. I can't tell you what they look like, but I don't think it's a lot of money. Performing rights organization. A performing rights organization, or a PRO as we call them in the industry, yes, is basically a company that just collects public performance royalties and then distributes them out to the artists on their roster. You've got SOCAN in Canada, you've got ASCAP, BMI, and CZAC in the United States, and you've got PRS and PPL in the UK, and honestly, most countries have their own performing rights organization. They basically just track live broadcasts of music performed in a public space, collect a fee, and then distribute it out to everybody on their roster. These people are awesome and are sometimes send me money, and it feels very good. Feels very good. I got like $50 this year. Heck yeah. Mechanical rights agency. Mechanical rights agencies manage the mechanical licensing rights for publishers. They also issue those rights to anyone reproducing or duplicating any sort of copyrighted musical composition. These companies often charge a set percentage of the royalties that they take in, and then they pay the rest out to publishers. Some PROs, such as SOCAN in Canada, take care of this themselves. However, in the United States, you would have to go through a company like the Harry Fox Agency. I guess it depends on your country. You'll have to figure it out for yourself. Yeah. Sync licensing agencies. Sync licensing agencies acquire the rights from labels and publishing companies so that they can sell them to people or companies so that the music can be synced to visual media. They sell licenses to film producers, music supervisors, advertising agencies, etc., 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 etc. Anything that is a visual medium that needs music to go with their visual medium. They then distribute those royalties out to whomever owns the master rights. So the label or the band or Uncle Jack. You really get those master rights back from Uncle Jack. I don't think he has my best interests in mind at this point. Ooh. Unlike a PRO or a mechanical rights organization, there are an abundance of sync licensing agencies, and honestly, you should just do some research and find one that you like or that has an artist you like and see, hey, maybe about getting in touch with them.